now we have to talk about anchor text. All links on the internet consist of a bit of HTML that typically looks something like this. You have the destination web address in the href attribute, puppyplace.com, and you have some descriptive text between the A tag. This is called the anchor text, how to build a doghouse. And when links are actually rendered on a web page, they of course look like this. Often they're underlined. I think we're all pretty much familiar with how web links look. But the original intended purpose of anchor text was to give the user a hint about what he'll find if he clicks on the link. In this case, we can infer that this link is pointing to a web page about how to build a doghouse, of course. So as internet users, we can kind of guess what we'll find if we click this link. Now, Googlebot also uses the anchor text in this link to get a hint about the destination's topic. So in the old days, if you wanted to rank a web page in Google for the keyword phrase, how to build a doghouse, then you would devote yourself to creating as many backlinks to your website as possible, and each backlink would contain this phrase as its anchor text. So you had a whole generation of SEOs waking up each morning and devoting themselves to rapidly producing a torrent of pithy content about doghouses and publishing this content on the internet anywhere they could, all in an effort to build increasingly more and more backlinks to their website. Again, the anchor text of each of these green incoming links here contains the same phrase again and again. How to build a doghouse, how to build a doghouse, how to build a doghouse, how to build a doghouse. And before the algorithm updates, you could, eventually, force the hand of Google. Googlebot would see all these websites pointing at your website with the phrase, how to build a doghouse, and hence they would eventually rank your website for this keyword phrase. So this illustrates how important anchor text was in earlier versions of the Google algorithm. And it still is important. You can see an example of the continued power of anchor text just by typing "click here" into Google. So the reason why Adobe is coming up for the word "click here" is because so many people have linked to the Adobe webpage saying something like this sample website here. It says, if you need to download Adobe Acrobat, click here. And this leads to the Adobe download page. So notice, even though the words "click here" don't appear on the Adobe page, Google is ranking this web page for the query "click here" anyway, because, again, this example gives you a glimpse of how the algorithm uses the incoming link anchor text, "click here," to decide which pages should be ranking for which keyword phrases. So in a way, this is the flaw in Larry Page's big idea. The Google algorithm could be, and still can be, gamed by anyone willing to devote themselves to the monotonous chore of backlink creation. It was this observation that inspired the birth of the billion-dollar SEO industry, and an entire generation of gray hat marketers and SEO guys who published millions of hastily produced articles on the web that all contained links pointing back to their web pages. When Google realized this, they formed their web spam team, led by the infamous Google engineer Matt Cutts, and they started de-indexing websites which were engaging in what Google deemed to be an artificial inflation of their search engine rankings. This JCPenney example is just one of thousands of examples of Google going after various link schemes. Now, in the Google Penguin updates, they reportedly also went after websites that had recurring anchor text in their backlinks, the same keywords used again and again and again. This was seen as a signal that the owner of this website was possibly cheating. He was probably creating these links himself to bolster his own ranking in Google search. And it's pretty obvious to see why Google made this inference, because ultimately, almost nobody naturally creates keyword-optimized anchor text. In other words, almost nobody goes to a website or a forum and says, hey guys, I know the best website to go to where you can learn how to build a doghouse. It's very rare for people to take the time to post links like this. People usually post something more like this. In other words, they just post the URL. Or, just as common, they'll simply type the words "click here." That's what most people do. Most people do not bother with keyword-optimized anchor text when they're posting links organically. It's only the SEO guys who take the time to keyword-optimize anchor text. And Google knew it, so it was easy for them to look for sites that had repetitive incoming link text and then demote their search rankings. So these days, if you build backlinks, you have to make sure to avoid over-optimizing your anchor text. Avoid linking to your webpage via a link with explicit anchor text like how to build a doghouse. Instead, you might use inconspicuous links like your domain name. In our example website, that was puppyplace.com. your brand name, the name of this guy's company was Puppy Place with a space between the words, the complete URL, just pasting the URL as a link in its entirety, or just some generic text like click here. This is how real people actually tend to link to websites. And so this is more in tune with how Google expects a natural backlink profile to look like.